Well, I think it was the thing that got me hooked on the first film when I was animating like Woody and really trying to get a hold of what's going on in his heart. It was that a sense of, hey, I used to be the favorite one, and now there's young animators who are better than me. And so I think everybody can relate to that in their own way, wherever you come from. Even like if you're the second-born child, you have a little bit of a jealousy for the firstborn, you know. So it's a very universal thing, and I think it hasn't changed since 1995.
No, I mean, I think what's interesting about technology is that there's almost no competition. The minute you put tech into a kid's hands, it's like you lose. And so this is actually, I think, even an even more escalated threat to the toys. And I think it's really interesting that Jessie is the one to deal with that. She's seen the most change, probably, of any of the toys, of any of the characters, and the fact that she's the one that's kind of confronting this huge, huge threat to their existence is why we really were attracted to this being both Jessie's story and about technology. So yeah, I think it's the biggest threat they've seen, for sure. You think it's so the darkest
That's
one?
interesting.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know, have you seen Toy Story 3?
Yeah, Toy Story 3, yikes, guys, yikes.
Going into the pit of hell.
Yeah. I think what maybe feels that way, potentially, is that the stakes for this one are about the kid. This is probably the first Toy Story where the toys are really worried about their child and what they're going through.
Yeah, usually they were worried about competition or each other and so on.
Yeah, and this is a bit of a shift. So I think that's what maybe feels like it feels like a little bit more of an amped stakes, is because the stakes are Bonnie and whether she's going to find a friend. And I think that feels very kind of real for parents and for kids, that this is a little girl who's struggling. And so I think as we talked about it, that felt like a shift for us, that we really felt like we were kind of focusing a lot more on the kid in this film.
Well, I think the time in which we're in is very challenging, and we are still figuring out exactly where we are and how to approach things with escalating costs and so on. With AI, I think it can be good, it can be bad. It's really dependent on how you use it. And we have always had the approach from the beginning, since 1995, since Toy Story 1, that technology can be used to support the vision of the artists. It can be used to further the reach of the storytelling, and that's the way we are continuing to experiment and use it. You're right about a lot of issues that having to do with rights. Luckily, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't have to worry about that. But we certainly do. We think a lot about it, and I think the artists at Pixar are very concerned as well. So it's something that we're approaching with a great deal of thought. AI is interesting in that it really makes you start to question, like, what is the point? Why are we making these things? Why are we making movies and telling stories? If it's just to fill air and to put stuff up on screen, fine, AI can do that. But if it's what I think it is, which is an artist reaching down into themselves and finding something that they are experiencing about this great mystery that we call life, and trying to communicate it to other people, I can't see how AI is going to be able to do that. It might be able to help an artist reach that and articulate it, but it's got to come from a human being who is living, who has a body, who breathes and tastes and smells and all the things that we do. I think AI can help that, but that's...
Yeah, well, I would also say that, you know, for us, I think for all of us, I would imagine on stage, it's, you know, if nobody wants to take a shortcut to the end. I think they're all in this business because we enjoy the making and the
discovery.
And the discovery. And the shortcut isn't appealing for any of us. I don't think any of us is in it just to get to the end of it. So I think nobody wants to kind of shortchange the experience of making these films. I think that's why we do it. So the kind of concept that we could somehow rush till the end or skip over the work is kind of not the point.
It's like music. It's not, the point isn't to get to the end of the piece.
The point
otherwise the best musicians would be the ones who play fastest, you know.
Yeah.
It's really to experience and enjoy the sound and the experience of it.
Andrew Stanton says AI is like fire. It's like it can warm you, it can help you cook things, it can light things, but it can also burn you. It's a very broad thing. So I think we're just trying to proceed with caution, but with real kind of our philosophy really hasn't changed from day one.
The character grew out of, if you remember in Toy Story 2, it grew out of Woody. So we had this desire to keep Woody with these new toys which he just met. Woody is very faithful. He just wants to go back to his kid and be with his old friends, so we needed a reason why would he stay. And so we came up with this whole story of Jessie and her trauma that she'd had and how she'd been in a box, and all this stuff in order to make Woody make the decision to stay. And now, years later, we get to unpack that further and really discover, I think what's very emotional to me is the idea of, did I make a difference? You know, we all live, we all try very hard, and we work and interact with people, but it's not always known whether you've really had an impact on them until sometimes years later, or maybe not, you might not find out at all. So it's great that Jessie gets to find this in this story. If you had asked me 31 years ago that would you still be talking about Toy Story and the characters in the movie, I would say no way. We were just happy to have finished one movie. And now years later, I think we're always shocked and sort of surprised in a wonderful way to find how much depth these characters have, that they continue to reveal new aspects of what it is to be alive. I think in part because they follow our own lives, you know, as we become from young people to parents to grandparents. And it's been a real joy. It's fun working with the voice talent and everybody at work. You can just look around and everyone goes, man, we're so lucky. We're so grateful to be here.
I think there's a lot of pressure. I think we think about it a lot before we start. I think there's always this moment of like, are we going to really go back in there? And if so, is it a story that's really worthy? I think in some ways, Toy Story has the most amount of pressure right at the beginning of the process. I think, you know, when we do an original film, sometimes, you know, you have a lot of like, oh my gosh, it's a new film and we're super excited to see it at Pixar. And the first screening of a Toy Story, everybody's like, really? Why are you guys going back in? So there's a lot of pressure right at the beginning to prove that there's a story worth telling. And so we take it we're very quiet about the fact that we're going into another Toy Story when we start. Because we're very precious about it and we want to make sure it doesn't get ahead of itself and that there's really a story there.
And we've started a few that we've stopped.
Yeah, we've definitely started and stopped and said there's nothing worth telling. So I think it just goes to show why there's so much time sometimes in between one film to the next. It's really that we take it very seriously. I think we are very protective of these films.